It started with the biggest pipe bomb the FBI had ever seen.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
It ended in a dumpster after the largest manhunt in American history.
My knees knocked so hard that I was about to answer them. That's how nervous I was.
Eric Rudolph and the rise of anger.
Domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now.
True story, true crime, true consequences for us all.
American Shrapnel, from award-winning journalists Becca Andrews and John Archibald, two-time winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Now available wherever you get your podcasts.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at NFLSundayTicket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis after Ohio State's 37-9 win over Ohio to improve to 3-0, and now they take the next 2 weeks to start getting ready for Big Ten play, which will start out in Seattle, Washington, when they play the Huskies for the first time as a Big Ten opponent on September 28th or 27th. One of those 2 days. I'm not great with dates. But the point of the matter is they're 3-0. They should hold on to that number one ranking. I do think it's going to be intriguing to see what the top 25 looks like going forward, because there was a lot of good and a lot of bad, a lot of ugly and a lot of pretty this week in college football. But Ohio State's 3-0. And I think, Stefan, over these first 3 weeks, there's a lot of positive. There's a lot of optimism about what we saw, especially when you compare it to around the country, what's going on, right? I think Texas, like they were booing Arch Manning today. So the hype train has officially stopped.
Ohio State did get booed today.
Yeah, Julian Sand didn't get booed today. But it's a reminder of the standard we're trying to hold Ohio State to is not the same standard that every other program in the country, especially now that Nick Saban doesn't exist, is getting held to. Because even Georgia, I know they pulled out that win over Tennessee, but they were down 21-7 after the first quarter. And if Tennessee makes a field goal at the end of regulation, Georgia has a loss, right? Ohio State was never in any fear of that. Even in their one matchup game they've played so far, there was never a point where it felt like Ohio State would lose. There was a point where we thought Texas might tie the game, but they were never in danger of losing that game. But with that being said, ugly first half where they were tinkering with some stuff, but then also not executing to the highest degree. Stefan and I are going to get into a lot of the red zone issues on the Monday pod. It's late, man, and I don't know if either one of us are in a spot here where we want to be able to have a conversation about that off the cuff without being able to chance to rewatch it, especially after we talk with some people. But Stefan, let's start with the offense. Evaluate the Julian Sand, Brian Hartline, the wide receivers, the entire offense. Where do you think it is coming out of non-conference play? What's something that maybe you have full confidence in? What's maybe something that maybe is just kind of lingering out there that you still have concerns about as Ohio State starts Big Ten play in 2 weeks?
I think the number one thing that excites me is the level of accuracy and arm talent from Julian Sand is just out of this world. I know we had high expectations for him coming into the season, but seeing it in action and kind of what a combination of that arm talent with these receivers, there's going to be big plays in this passing game all the time. It's surreal to see him in action sometimes for how young he is to be able to make some of the passes that he does. It's a special talent. Where I come out of this with maybe some concerns is, the running game is interesting to me because even Ryan Day talked about, being pretty pleased with what they got out of the running game today. And I'm sure we'll talk about Bo Jackson, if not on this pod, then definitely, moving forward quite a bit. But the rushing attack was much better today than it was against Texas, definitely, and even against Grambling State. I thought the rushing attack was good today, and there were some explosive plays thanks to Bo Jackson. That said, the rushing attack in the red zone has not been good, and I think that's maybe limited some of what they can do in the red zone and maybe contributed to some of the red zone struggles that we saw specifically against Ohio. So if I were to point to one area of concern, it would be still kind of the rushing game specifically as it pertains to the red zone. But overall, I'm feeling pretty good about this offense because I had high expectations for Julian Sayin. It's not that I didn't, I didn't have him as a Heisman finalist, but like we all knew the potential was there. It was just a matter of how quickly he would tap into it. And it's gone way quicker than I thought, because I think we saw the poise against Texas. We saw the accuracy against Grambling. We saw the big playability against Ohio. Like, we've seen so many different elements of the passing game from him. And as a result of that, when your quarterback is playing like that and he has these weapons around him, you will figure it out. Things will work. Now, it didn't look perfect at all times, right? The red zone execution we'll dive into more tomorrow. Like, there's different areas that they obviously need to improve upon. But at its core, this offense is a wagon. And when the guy driving the car is that good and that accurate, it's really hard to stop. So I'm very impressed with what I've seen from Ohio State's offense, and specifically its quarterback, through 3 games.
All the above, Andrew. What do you think of the offense?
I mean, explosive might be the word that comes to mind. And I don't think you have seen this team's full explosiveness because they might not have been starting their best running back for the first 3 games of the year. I mean, Julian Sayin, we talk about the red zone inefficiencies, and like, is it picking nits? Sorta, maybe, debatable. But I think the point of the matter is that Julian Sayin, with like, there are going to be people listening to this podcast who are going to say they have concerns about the red zone, and you're totally fair. And there are going to be people that are listening that say, who really cares? And they're also right, because Julian Sayin threw for 347 yards. And when you have an offense that is dynamic as this, Jeremiah Smith, 47-yard long reception for a touchdown. Carnell Tate, 49-yard long. 2 receivers go over 100 yards. You have Bo Jackson, who can break one. He had a 64-yard run. This offense, they're not going to plod. They've never been a plodder. But now you've got a real deep threat. And no disrespect to Will Howard, he was just not that. Like, Will Howard was not the explosive, oh my goodness gracious, look how great this quarterback is, and look at him throwing dots all over the field. That was just not Will Howard's game. And they won a national championship with him, so I'm not trying to poo-poo what Will Howard did at Ohio State. But this is a different level, and I think everybody's looking at that. And you see a running back that is dynamic as Bo Jackson. You see receivers that are as dynamic as what Ohio State has. And like, I'm not trying to look too far ahead, but Julian Sayin's coming back for 26. Bo Jackson's coming back for 26. Jeremiah Smith is coming back for 26. The receiving talent is ridiculous. And this team is really, really dangerous, because like, there might be a moment this year where, to, pardon my French, they're farting around for a few quarters, right? They don't look great for 2.5 quarters. And then all of a sudden, Jeremiah Smith does something and you're like, oh, wow, the offense, oh, wait, there goes Bo Jackson, hip, hip, hooray. All of a sudden, they turn 14 points in 4 minutes because they are that explosive. Explosiveness is the thing that makes this offense special, and they've got that in spades.
I feel like the offense both poked some holes on itself today, maybe purposefully almost, with some of the stuff they were doing, because there was a lot of tinkering. They had a drive where they had 10 plays, and I swear it felt like they had a different personnel package for all 10 plays. But then in the second half, Julian Sayin starts letting bombs fly down the field on posts and go routes and fade routes, and Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are looking like Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, right? Julian Sayin, 25 of 32 for 347, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, which he did explain. He said on the second interception, he felt the rush, thought he could get through it, and probably should have just ate the sack, and that ends up being a interception. I'm not sure. They might look at that and call it a fumble instead of an interception, but either way, it's a play that didn't have to happen. And then on the first interception, he sees the spy, thinks he can get the ball over the spy, guesses wrong. Ohio gets an interception, so he gets 2 interceptions, but he has 5 other incompletions other than that, 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jeremiah Smith, 9 for 153 and a touchdown on 12 targets. Carnell Tate on 6 targets, 5 catches for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. And Ryan Day was saying that Carnell probably could have came down with that ball on the other touchdown that he missed out on. Max Clare, 2 for 30 and a score. Bo Jackson had 2 catches. CJ Donaldson had 2 catches. Will Kazmarek had 2 catches. James Peoples, 2 catches. Jelani Thurman, a catch. And as you're saying, Andrew, in the run game, James Peoples wasn't that bad. 6.7 yards per carry, but a lot of that came in the second half of his 7 carries for 47 yards. CJ Donaldson, 9 carries for 39 yards. JJ had a 17-yard run, which was like the ultimate, let's make sure JJ gets another score, because, Heisman trophies at the end of the year. Bo Jackson, 9 for 109, no score. And even if you take out the 64-yard run, it's still a pretty quality day. It's 8 for 45 yards, which is 5.6 yards per carry. So it's right in the middle of James Peoples and CJ Donaldson. I think, because I'm going to ask you guys another question because it's going to help me make my point. What was your thought about the offense at halftime, and how did that evolve by the end of the game?
My thought was they're trying too many things,
Okay.
and it's not working. But let me. I want to make it clear though. I don't think it was like stupid that they did that. I thought this was the game where you kind of do it. But if you're a fan who's watching, or if you're, I remember telling you this, Stephen, at halftime, just like,
yeah,
I get what they're doing, but like, if you're a fan who's like, we finally got a night game, and you come and it's like they're almost like a glorified practice, you're like, this kind of a bummer. But I understand where Ohio State was coming.
It was annoying. It's annoying to watch your favorite team at night spend 30 minutes having practice. It's annoying. Necessary, understandable. I'm almost glad you did it because it's going to pay off when you come back from the bye week. But it is annoying that it happened, right? Is that fair, Andrew, to say that if you are a fan, it is annoying to watch your team tinker in real time, even if it's the most necessary thing for them to do?
You guys ever like see somebody's outfit and go, you know what? There's just too much going on. Like there's just too, you're trying too much. I respect what you're doing, but you're just trying a little too much. You're expanding a little more than you should. The shoes I get, but the pants, they don't match the shirt. I see the idea, but you didn't hit it. And that to me was probably the thing that I would look at and say, like, I think Stefan's right. They were doing too much. We talked about this. How many different packages did they have in the game? Ian Moore got a snap in the first half, and like they sent him in as an extra lineman, and it just felt like you wonder if like Ohio State was trying some different things. Steven, how many times have you said they put stuff on film the week before they play somebody good and then they don't run that thing? Like, how much of this was, we're going to test something before we play Washington? Because it is hard to, it is kind of hard to reconcile with the fact that it's like, think about how kind of up and down and kind of frantic this non-conference season felt like. They play Washington in 2 weeks, and that's Big Ten play. And Ryan Day mentioned it. They've got a gauntlet after that. You get Minnesota at home. You go on the road to Illinois and Wisconsin. Like, it's not an easy task. So Stefan's right. They were trying too much. I saw the vision. I saw what they were going for. It just didn't work. It just didn't blend together.
It took so long for that first game to get there, and I'm shocked that Gillis just said non-conference play is over. What happened?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the regular season is 25% over. Because in terms of games played for Ohio State, like it felt like we had talked so long about this Texas game, and now it's like, oh, here comes Washington, and now we're almost in mid-September.
You saying that though perfectly sums it up. Ohio State spent all that time preparing for Texas, and now when you're playing Ohio, you kind of have to make it an open practice because you're still trying to figure things out because you spent all of preseason camp getting ready for Texas.
Yeah, exactly. So here are the big plays in the passing. 201 yards for Julian Sayin in the passing game, came on plays of 15 or more yards. He had a play where he had a 42-yarder to Jeremiah Smith. He had a 30-yarder to Carnell Tate. He had a 17-yarder to Jeremiah Smith, a 16-yarder to Max Clare for the touchdown. And then the last two that he had were, I think, the ones where it was very much we can do this whenever we want. 47 yards down the field to Jeremiah Smith, 49 yards down the field to Carnell Tate on the most we can do this whenever we want. We got to figure out everything else right now. And even in the run game, it took some time, but 7 plays of 10 or more yards, 15-yard run for Bo Jackson, 11-yard run for CJ Donaldson, 11-yard run for Bo Jackson, 64-yarder for Bo Jackson, 11-yard run for James Peoples, 17-yard run for James Peoples, and then Jeremiah Smith had the 17-yard run for a touchdown. They were explosive whenever they wanted to be explosive. So that's what I mean by you spent 30 minutes tinkering and then went, you know what? Let it go. Away. So what do we do with that?
I think that's a good point. Like, what do you do with that? Okay, I think the thing is, the ceiling of this offense is number one offense in college football. And it's
is that the ceiling or is that the floor?
Well, I don't know how it could be the floor because I don't know what's higher than one.
The ceiling is we start having conversations about where it sits in some of the best offenses in the last 5-6 years here, I think.
Sure. Well, I think there's two things here. It's like you look at it and say like, okay, what do we do with that? The number one thing is like, again, I think this offense is maybe the best in college football, and that is something that is just like, we went into the year, and I think one of our texters asked us like before the year started, is it possible that they have the number one offense and number one defense? And I think we were all like, that's maybe a stretch. I mean, looking at this offense, I don't think it's a stretch. The second thing, and looking at this defense, I don't think it's a stretch. But the second thing is, they are never out of a game, and not that they're really ever going to be, in a position where it's like, this one's over. But like, think about a game that, like I said, Ohio State can be kind of plodding along. Maybe things aren't driving. You can't get the offense out of first or second gear. I use the example of the TreVeyon Henderson run against Notre Dame in 23. They didn't run the ball well that game. But guess what TreVeyon Henderson did? He can bail you out of that. And that's what Bo Jackson might be able to do. And there might be a day where, man, what if you're playing Penn State or Michigan, and for whatever it is, Julian's not seeing it. They got Jeremiah locked up. Carnell's not having a great game. Guess what? You can bail yourself out of trouble because of the explosiveness. So the explosiveness, it buys you maybe, like, especially with Sand at the helm, it buys you a level of get out of jail free card that maybe you didn't have as much of last year because of how explosive this offense can be.
But you had it. It just wasn't always with the quarterback. It was more in the run game. But I think that I'm glad the TreVeyon Henderson 61-yard run against Notre Dame, the TreVeyon Henderson 75-yard screen pass against Texas, right? Jeremiah Smith did the first college football games. Has it reached the point with, because it's like a get out of jail free card for Ohio State, that regardless of what's happening, at some point they're going to hit you over the head with a 25-yard play. And I wonder, do you find I think I found myself in the first half waiting for that moment of like, yeah, you're doing all this tinkering, but at some point you're going to throw it. At some point, Mike Tyson is going to hit you in your ribs and you're going to stop breathing for a second, right?
I was going to say, you were kind of waiting for that, that entire first half, and it didn't really come. But I think that's part of what, like, that's why I don't think it's outrageous to say the floor comment that you did, because if the floor is you struggle, but you can break a few big plays, then what does this offense look like when it gets some consistency? Because this is the perfect encapsulation of a young, talented offense of, you're talented enough where you're going to get the big plays, but what happens when that group gets experience and time together and chemistry, and the quarterback's been through situations, and now it goes from explosive to crisp with the threat of explosiveness? That's why, like, to say the ceiling's even higher I don't think is an outrageous thing to say.
That's why they beat Texas last year in the Cotton Bowl. They just kind of chugged along, and all it was 2 hard hits to the rib. And the second one, Texas couldn't get off the mat, right? I was calling them haymakers
Texas
back
landed
then.
More body blows, and Ohio State had the uppercut.
Sure.
Or maybe Ohio State was maybe more aptly hitting itself in the stomach, and then they were able to get out of the way because of those explosive plays.
Yeah. It's one hitting for points and the other one's hitting to knock you on your butt and you can't get back up. And all it takes is 2 of those good hits. And it doesn't matter that you won the game because you're laid out in the ref's line saying, "What's your name?" and counting to 10. And you're right, Stefan. What happens when it's why I wrote this after the game, and I think it maybe comes off a little bit more harsher than I think my tone was. I hope they have small issues right now. The red zone thing is not an issue. That's gotta be fixed. They gotta be able to throw the ball in the red zone and run the ball. And Julian Sand's throwing a pick in the red zone one game, and this second game they just couldn't get in the end zone. Now, one, he got sacked. Another one, CJ Donaldson accidentally stepped out of bounds. They turned it over on downs. They had to settle for a field. Like, they got to figure that out. That can't be an issue. You can't be great between the 20s, but then you get to the red zone areas and you can't score, right? They got to be able to do that. But right now it's a small issue, and it only becomes a big issue when it becomes a big issue, right? And it will. Maybe it will. Or Julian Sand's going to find Jeremiah Smith for a 42-yarder, 47-yarder. He's going to find Carnell Tate for a 40. It solved so many issues that quickly, to where it doesn't mean it's excusable that you have these issues. I do think, though, the fact that they have so many ways that they can be potent, especially if it feels like Bo Jackson's starting to get into a groove now, which, to the Bo Jackson point, Bo wasn't great on his other 8 runs. He was fine. 5.6 yards per carry. It's fine, right? It wasn't great. But when you pair that with a 64-yarder, that's kind of the point here, is tinker. Oh, wait. They're playing man coverage and they brought their safeties down. Hey, Carnell, here. Go deep. Hey, JJ, go deep. Here. Go deep. I don't know how you solve that as a Big Ten defense when you can that's what the Texas game and the Cotton Bowl was. Really, that's what this Texas game was. You can do everything right, and it comes down to Carnell Tate caught a ball that only Carnell Tate could catch. All Ohio State needs is one good hit to the ribs, and all those little jabs that you threw for 30 minutes stop matter. They also might have the best quarterback in college football.
It's pretty damn good.
Ohio State might have the best offensive player in college football, the best defensive player in college football, and the best quarterback in college football.
Right.
And the best linebacker in college football.
And the best linebacker in college football. And it's not
and
the
Stefan
one
Krajisnik's favorite football player of all time.
Hold up. And it's not the one wearing number 0, which is insane because he's one of the 6 best linebackers in college football. So am I being nitpicky complaining that Ohio State decided to tinker around for 30 minutes? Or is there something there? Because, right, and Brian Day always says it, the issues are the issues no matter who you're playing. So do we look at the first half? Do we look at the red zone issues just off the cuff before, Stefan, we've had a chance to rewatch it and get a better understanding that we'll talk about on Monday. Do we look at some of the stuff we saw early in this game and do we go, they got 2 weeks, they'll figure it out, they're fixable, they're not really a big deal? Or are these the first signs of how Ohio State loses a football game?
I'd probably lean toward the former. I just think that there's probably, when Ryan Day and the staff go through the film, I think it's just going to be more a collection of, hey, this didn't work. We don't need to spend too much time on it. Hey, this did work. Because, like, there was one situation, I think they were maybe, if not in the red zone, just outside the red zone, and they lined up in I formation and ran the ball, and you were just like, I think that was the play that set you off. You were just like, what? We're running I formation outside, like, the red zone. Like, what is going on here? But they ran it for like 10 yards.
I know. And I immediately in that moment was like, you know what? I'm going to shut up. I'm wrong.
But that's one of those things where it's like, that's something that you ran, and you can kind of, put a little check mark next to it and say, okay, if we got to pull that out in a late game situation, like, we know that can work for us in the red zone.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe there was other things where you look at, you say that, that didn't work for us in the red zone. So it sounds like a cop out, but I just think good and bad, this was kind of a chance for Ohio State to put some things on film and figure out what they can do and what they can't do. Or not what they can do, but what they maybe need to work on.
Okay, so I'm assuming, Andrew, you're in line step with that thinking. So, again, being nitpicky, because you got to find something, right? No team is perfect at this point. How many games do you have to see some of the issues we saw today before you start thinking the latter?
Oh, man. Offensively?
Yeah.
Probably 2 more.
Okay.
Like, the Washington game is going to be, I think, one of those, like, there's not going to be a line on that one, but, like, Washington's a solid team. It's going to be, everybody that talks about that place talks about how loud it is and how raucous that place is going to be. And then, look, they're going to be fired up hosting the number 1 team in the country. So, like, that's going to be a tough place to play. It's going to be Julian Saint's first game. So it's like, you don't play well in the red zone there. And then you come home to Minnesota, who, I mean, we were walking out of the shoe and we saw they were losing 7-0 to Cal. So, like, what is Minnesota? If you have issues against those 2 teams in the red zone, then it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe this is a thing. Maybe this is a long-term thing. But right now, I mean, I'm not, frankly, all that concerned with those issues.
So Julian Sand has 3 interceptions right now, and he's been sacked once. All 3 of his interceptions feel like one-off situations. It had gotten to a point last year with Will Howard where you almost expected that mistake. I don't think we're there yet with Julian Sand. But if he has another one of these weird turnovers against Washington, we're going to have to start talking about, okay, is there something that with Julian Sand, because he's young, you're going to have to live with? The thing is, he's 19 and this is his first year as a starter, so it's not as set in stone as it is with Will Howard as a 5th-year senior. This is what he's always been. So with Julian, it'll be like, okay, this is now an issue. Can Ryan Day and Billy Fessler coach it out of him? They got to figure out right guard. It's not a problem, but it's like Ethan and Yahweh Tegra-Shabola needs to spend the next 2 weeks claiming that job and it being like, this is my job. I'm ready to do this because I don't feel all the way confident. That's the one spot on the offensive line I have a lot of question marks about. And right now, I don't know if the answer is 100% on the roster, but this is college football, not the NFL, where you can just wait and just pick somebody up on waivers and free agency. So one of them needs to spend the next 2 weeks going, this is my job. Give it to me and let's go play football. Everything else is fine. I think the running back rotation is going to work itself out. This is the result of you got 3 guys who haven't had meaningful roles at Ohio State before. 2 of them weren't really here yet, and they're all trying to figure it out. And Carlos Loughlin's trying to figure out how to juggle 3 different people. I'm not worried about the personnel at running back, and it just takes games to figure out run games. That's not an overnight thing. That's a thing that maybe takes some time here. So the only thing I'm worried about is the right guard spot. Everything else feels like if you have a concern, there is an answer. that you can click already. So because of that, and you combine that with at any moment Ohio State can throw a 40-yarder down the field for a touchdown, it's hard to have anything but optimism about what this offense is doing right now. If this is the worst of what the offense is, if this is the worst version of it, I like what Washington brings because they've also got some really good corners. I can't wait to dive into Washington when we get to Washington week because there's a lot there. Any other offensive thoughts anybody wants to talk about before we take a break?
Bo Jackson's awesome. He's just awesome.
Cleveland guys, man. Something about them in an Ohio State jersey. They tend to always be pretty good. Okay, let's take a break, and then we're going to flip over to the defensive side here on Buckeye Talk.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
Don't chew on that, Max.
Cooper loves that chew, too.
Oh, now he's into Cooper's food. Wow, he is loving it. What do you feed Cooper?
Blue Buffalo Life Protection Formula. He never leaves a crumb. I love it because it's made with high-quality protein, nutrient-rich fruits and veggies, and wholesome whole grains.
Looks like we're switching to Blue.
Blue Buffalo foods are made with the superior ingredients your dog needs to thrive. Can your dog food say that? Visit feedbluefood.com to learn more.
Who says you can't be the topic of conversation for all the right reasons? The Hyundai Tucson Hybrid pairs bold presence with advanced technology and sleek style. It's everything you didn't know you needed in an SUV and then some. Okay, Hyundai. Visit HyundaiUSA.com to learn more.
We're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis talking Ohio State's 37-9 win over Ohio to improve to 3-0. Arvell Reese was everywhere. My Lord, he was everywhere. 7 tackles, a sack, a TFL, 2 pass breakups, one of which was like the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, where they called it a fumble and KJ almost had a touchdown. And it's like, that wasn't a fumble. He threw the ball. And for whatever reason, Arvell didn't just catch it. He just batted it down, but it's fine. And he also had a quarterback hit. Sonny Styles had 6 tackles. Caleb Downs had 6 tackles and a TFL. Caden Curry. And I think Bo Atkinson just had his best game as a Buckeye. I think they've been all over the place. Stefan, is this the best defense in the country? We just can't say it yet because we want to see it against another like-minded team before we go all the way with it.
Yeah, I think it is. You know, one thing we were talking about, and Arvell Reese naturally is the one who sparked this conversation. The one thing we were talking about in the press box is, you know, we watched that. I don't even remember what the play was. I could not tell you what the play was, but there was a play where I think it was Parker Navarro had kind of, the pocket had kind of moved around, collapsed a bit. He kind of stepped up and went to run it himself. And it's a play where, you know, the defense just closed in so quick on him. And I think Arvell was the one who got the tackle on the play. And I looked at you guys and I said, like, there are not many defenses with this level of speed that play with this level of speed. And Steven, you had pointed out, like, yeah, like most teams, I think you had said, like, most teams in the MAC, that's like a 15-yard run up the middle for Parker Navarro. And I looked at you and said, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that's a 15-yard run for Parker Navarro. Because, you know, we were watching Georgia-Tennessee today. Georgia's defense is usually humming like that. They were getting diced up, you know. And you're looking around the country and you're trying to see, you know, which defenses can play with a level of speed of what, you know, Arvell and Caleb Downs and guys like that present. And it's hard to find many, man. Like Ohio State has a bunch of dudes out there making plays. And yeah, I think it's the best defense in the country. There was Ohio ran a screen to like one of their receivers. And the play, it seemed like it was designed like, all right, if you can make this guy miss, it's going to be a big play. Okay, that guy's Caleb Downs. He does not miss tackles. Like, this team tackles well. This team is fast. They get after you in the backfield. They cover like none other with what they got in their secondary. Jalen McClain, okay, yeah, he's just new Lathan Ransom, where he makes you question your will to be out there on the football field. Like,
that hit was crazy.
That was a crazy hit. Did you guys? I don't know if you guys watched his press conference back. He didn't know that they were reviewing it for targeting until I think Dan Hope maybe asked him about it, and he was like, I didn't know they were reviewing it for targeting.
Yeah, just because he's headhunting doesn't mean it should be targeted. Every big hit is not targeting. It's not. Yeah. You have to let these people play football.
But Ohio, like the thing is too, Ohio State delivers some big hits. But when we were at the coaches clinic in the offseason, you kind of see the way Matt Patricia talks about technique and tackling. Like he is very good at that kind of stuff. So it does not surprise me that Ohio State's delivering big hits and doing it in a clean way. So like I don't know what more to say about it other than like it's the fastest defense. It's the strongest defense. It's the biggest defense. And, oh, by the way, they're going to change up the formations like none other. And it's third down, and they're running a 3-2-6. Whatever the hell that is.
It's wonderful. It's my favorite thing in the world. Thank you for bringing it into my life, Matt Patricia. It is 3 down defensive ends, and it just depends on who's in the game. I think we've seen C.J. Hicks out there as one of the edges in that situation.
I think the standard would be like Kenyatta, Caden Curry, and Bo Atkinson.
Probably, just because those are your top 3 defensive ends. And Kenyatta's always on the edge. We've seen games, I think the Texas game, there were times when we saw Bo Atkinson on the edge and Caden Curry on the interior. Saturday night, we saw more Caden on the outside and Bo Atkinson on the inside. But those are typically the 3. I think CJ will be in there a little bit. I think if the situation is like it was against Texas, where Texas is in a 2-minute drill and they have to throw the ball, I think we might see a little bit more CJ because he's a natural pass rusher. But to your point, Stefan, yes, those 3 are who are going to be in the game. They're taking off both defensive tackles, no defensive tackles on the field. And you've got Arvell Reese just picking a gap. And you don't know what he's doing. Is he blitzing? Is he dropping? Is he going to loop around somehow and come off the edge? Who knows what he's going to do? Also, you never know what Caleb Downs is going to do. Caleb knows what he's going to do, Andrew, but you don't know. I don't know. Who knows? The point is he's going to end up making a tackle somehow, and then Sonny Styles.
I wonder if there's some times where Matt Patricia doesn't know, but he just trusts Caleb to do the right thing.
I don't even think Caleb Downs knows sometimes. He's just like, you know what? I'm going to show you this, and then we'll see what happens after that. Either way, it's going to be a good play. And then Sonny Styles is awesome. They brought Jermaine Matthews in at nickel. They keep the safeties out there, who right now have been Lorenzo Styles, Jalen McClain, and, number 2, who's just kind of playing whatever he wants to play. And then you have Devin Sanchez, who, man, he's good. He's very, very good. Very, very good. Very ready. This 2025 freshman class is very 2021 recruiting class for Ohio State coded, where these guys play a lot of minutes early and they're just in the lineup for 4 straight years, 3 straight years for some of these guys. Riley Pettijohn would be playing more snaps if there weren't 2 athletic freaks in front of him. And then Davis and Igbinosun on the other side. I love it. It's my favorite thing in the world, Andrew, but with a caveat. Lorenzo Styles got hurt, and so what we did see was in the base, we saw Jermaine Matthews go to nickel, and we saw Devin Sanchez come in and be the outside cornerback. Lorenzo also got beat on a coverage play to Chase Hendricks, who we talked about on the preview pod as basically their only weapon in the slot, and it was a 67-yard touchdown pass. That was 67 of Parker Navarro's 94 yards on the day. This has been my concern with Lorenzo. I think he is great in the run game. I think he is stout in the run game. I think he's typically a solid tackler, but I've had concerns about him in coverage. And I'm wondering, as we get deeper into the season, do we see more teams try to attack him in the slot? Which comes back to the idea you had all off season of, do we get to a point where Jermaine Matthews is his team starting nickel? They just didn't want to throw Devin Sanchez to the wolves in the first 3 weeks, but now he has experience, and maybe we get to a point where the 3-2-6 evolves to the point that Jermaine Matthews and Devin Sanchez and Davis and Igbinosun are your starting cornerbacks.
Never wrong, just early. I mean, look. Is anybody
wrong for the record? We asked for the starting lineup for the Texas game.
Yeah,
I said it should be. I said it should be.
Yeah, but that's not what we didn't ask you what it should be. We said
I thought it was what it was going to be. Was so wrong, but I was also right, and I said that I think this is their best unit.
I guess we'll see. You've got 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Devin's got legitimate film now, so I guess do they trust Devin to do more? Right, yeah. I think is what this comes down to. I think this is less of a what's the best spot for Jermaine, because there's not a bad spot for Jermaine, and more of who do you trust more, Lorenzo Styles or Devin Sanchez right now. And I don't know if Tim Walton completely has an idea of that, it's a good problem to have. Like Carlos Loughlin has a good problem to have with 3 running backs. Also, how many teams have slot receivers who can kill you the way Chase Hendricks did? Because again, he had 67 yards on that play. He had 9 yards in his other 2 catches.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Chase Hendricks had It's not like Chase Hendricks had, I don't know, 9 catches for 153 yards and a touchdown on 12 targets. So what do we think? Would you want to mark that down again, that maybe we see Jermaine in the slot and Devin outside against Washington?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
I mean,
obviously, Lorenzo's status matters in this, but
for sure.
Let's pretend, Lorenzo's healthy, maybe.
Yes, which Ryan Day said he did not have an update. We did see Lorenzo Styles after the game. He had a heavy ice pack on his right shoulder. So, yes, this is assuming all the options are on the table.
I think so, yeah. I think we'll see Jermaine in the nickel.
I think they should spend 2 weeks repping it and see what it looks like. Again, Devin Sanchez looks ready to play football. I have not noticed him out there. And they haven't played a lot of man either. That's part of this other issue. Okay, what else?
Okay, I have a question, because I think the way this defense played against Texas, it helped us kind of shelf the defensive tackle discussions. What do we make of Tywone Malone being the starting defensive tackle in Game 3?
I think Edric Houston had multiple false start offsides, encroachment penalties against Grambling.
And this was the perfect game to say, here's your discipline.
Because it's not like he didn't play at all. If he hadn't played at all, I would have been like, okay, maybe there's a thing. But I think it was literally just like Edric didn't play well against Grambling, and Tywone Malone did.
Okay. So do you think it's more of a good job, Tywone Malone?
I think it's both. I think it's a good job, Tywone Malone, and Edric, this spot isn't yours just because I gave it to you at the beginning of the season.
So do you feel better about defensive tackle than you did 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago? Or do you still want to see it? Washington's going to test that. They got a good running game.
Can the answer be both?
The answer can always be both, but that doesn't really make for a fun podcast, does it?
I know. That's why. No, the answer can't be both. I think they have people they can put on the football field other than just Edric Houston and Caden McDonald, which 30 days ago, I did not think they had other people other than Caden McDonald and Edric Houston to play. So from that standpoint, yes, I feel better about defensive tackle depth. How do I feel about Ohio State's ability to stop the run against a team who can run the football? I don't know if my answer has changed on that yet. I still think it's my number one concern with this defense, just because it's not like Texas had like 167 yards, man. It's just Arch Manning couldn't make some throws. Okay, so what if a team has 167 yards rushing and the quarterback actually makes the throws?
And Grambling was able to get some push sometimes up front.
Yeah. So I don't think it's a scheme thing or a coaching thing. I just think Day always says it's either scheme, personnel, or coaching. I don't think it's scheme and coaching. I think these guys just have to play better on the interior. I think that's my answer to a lot of things with Ohio State right now. I think offensively, Brian's figuring it out, right? He's going through this for the first time, just like Julian Sand is. And Julian Sand's figuring it out, right? He made a couple first-year starter mistakes, but other than that, he's been pretty awesome. Even the special teams issues, I mean, that might be that's a grander issue. That's always been an issue here. But a lot of this stuff is just coming down to be who we think you are. Be who you think you are. We thought Edric Houston and Caden McDonald could be the best defensive tackle tandem in the Big Ten, maybe even in the country. I think one half of that is living up to that moniker right now, and it's Caden McDonald. I think he's been awesome for 3 games. I think Edric's been fine, but he's also had multiple encroachment penalties. I don't think they're getting the most out of their slot receiver right now. And I don't know if that is a result of how much 12 and 13 personnel they're playing, or if it's they're not getting the most out of their slot receiver right now. Because it's weird. The slot receiver.
That's a real chicken or the egg situation, I think.
Yeah, but it's weird because the slot receiver has been such a fundamental part of this offense since Ryan Day got here. Seriously, the 2 most catches in a single season record holders right now who have held that record since Ryan Day showed up, Paris Campbell, slot receiver. Guess who stole it from him? Jackson Smith-Njigba, slot receiver. Guess who Ohio State's all-time leader in catches is? Emeka Egbuka, slot receiver. So it's Brandon Ennis didn't have a catch today, and I don't know what to make of that. Is it to your point, Andrew? Is that because everybody else is so good, or is there something else there that they're not getting out of the slot position that maybe you need to start tapping into. And maybe they might start doing that, right? Because Washington just watched JJ and Carnell go for 100 yards each, and they're going to do that to every team in the country unless somebody does something about it. So as teams start focusing on those two, does it open up Brandon? And it's the same way that when teams started focusing on Garrett and Chris in 2021, it opened up Jackson Smith-Njigba. So I'm not concerned, but the slot receiver didn't have a catch at Ohio State. I can't tell you the last time the slot receiver didn't have a catch in a game at Ohio State. So that's weird to me. The special team stuff, weird to me. That here we are still dealing with this 4 years later. Parker Fleming's been gone for 2 years, and we're still not all the way sure about the special teams. But again, all these are small problems that might not be things that cost them a game, but it's just weird to me.
Well, and I think one of the things that, I mean, look, you said like, let's go to the defense, and then we end back up at the conversation of like, let's go to the slot receiver. And I think like,
but
and I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm just, what's that?
I think, yeah, I know, but it all plays because the question was asked of like the defensive tackle thing, and I'm comparing it. And we ended up back at the offense. I know
that's what I'm saying.
The point I'm making though is just like, I don't know if they're concerned or it's just weird.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the thing about the offense right now. It's like, all right, they're maybe still figuring out their identity.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, there is like a Lion King element of this, like remember who you are. It's like, all right, well, are they gonna go to that? Is it gonna be the slot receiver thing, or are they gonna just keep with this tight end stuff? Is the tight end stuff because they believe in their tight ends, like you said, or is it a Brandon Inniss thing? But I think I want to just touch on this really quickly, and then we can go back to offense if you want. I needed to touch on this because I wrote about it after the game. Like Ohio State's defense has now gotten boring good, like to a level. Like I wrote that the next time that we are going to see a massive test for this defense is November 1st. And we did one of our videos.
That Washington erasure.
Like we did one of our videos where it's like, okay, like, look, Washington is going to be a challenge. They're not going to be as much of a challenge as Texas was, like in terms of talent. You know, like I understand Arch has not had the greatest start to a season, but like Texas has still got a good offensive line with really, really talented running backs and like Ryan Wingo at receiver, and they've got other talented receivers to go with him. Like Texas has weapons. Minnesota has Darius Taylor. You got to show me with that quarterback. I know you guys are high on him, but like that feels potential to me, and I don't think you guys are going to disagree with that. Illinois, it's Altmaier, and we'll see what they've got in the running game. But like, there's nothing that on this. Wisconsin stinks, but there's nothing on this schedule in the next couple of weeks that you look at and go, this is a problem for Ohio State. Now, the Penn State game is interesting because we talked about this with the defense of like, you know, what could hurt this defense? And basically there's two ideas here. We're going to take out a hammer and try to hit you in the head for 60 minutes and run the ball and win. That's Penn State. Like, I understand they've got Drew Aller, who might be a first-round pick at quarterback, and he can sling it a little bit, but they have one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in college football. They do have a really good running back tandem. Like, they're going to try to come to Columbus and physically impose their will. That's the next time that I think Ohio State's defense is really in danger because, like Stefan was saying, they are so talented at a level that is just really, really impressive, and the scheme is pairing with that well. And I think that's the most important thing. I wrote about this as well. Like, I included this early in my story. Like, Ohio State allowed 7 to Texas, 0 to Grambling State, and then 9 to Ohio, which, again, very funny that Ohio has scored more points on Ohio State than Texas did. But that's 16 points in the first 3 games, and the non-conference schedule is way better than it was last year because you played a way better MAC team than any that you played last year, which was Akron and Western Michigan, and then you played Marshall. And then you also played the number 1 team in the country in that. And Ohio State's defense arguably has played better, opponent notwithstanding, this year. And I think opponent included and relatively, they have played way better. So like this defense has just gotten to a level to where Steven, I think subconsciously did it where he's like, the offense we just have questions about whether it's like, is this a thing or a capital A, capital T thing, or is just a thing that is happening and it's our job to talk about what's going on in the present day and it's our job to report the news. The defense is just like, okay, well, the defensive tackles, like, we'll see. But everything else is pretty awesome, right? Yep, check, good, got it. Like, the defense is just playing at another level. And I understand all the, attentions get pointed to the offense, but, like, I just want to point out that the defense is playing at another level to where we can get on a podcast, go, yeah, I wonder about that defensive tackle rotation. But anyways,
I hate that they tinker in games, but I understand that they have to tinker in games. So I think at halftime I just do a temper tantrum and wrote about Ohio State's out here tinkering in a game again. Here we go. So if you showed up here looking for the fireworks, instead you get what their Wednesday practice looks like. And then in the second half, JJ's out here catching 50-yard bombs with Chrome Heart socks on. So to answer your question, Stefan, that you originally asked, because I think I just talked myself through it. All of my questions about Ohio State are about players who are getting accustomed to their new roles. And so they are not what they are going to be by November. And that comes with its own ups and downs. So let's see what happens with Brandon Inniss over the next couple of months. Let's see what happens with Ezra Houston. I don't think I've lost confidence in any of these people. James Peoples as well. I think this is what happens when a team is trying to find itself. Well, also there's a lot of guys who we think are going to be very good, but that doesn't mean they're going to be very good on day one. Because even JJ dropped his very first target as an Ohio State football player. So that's my answer to your question that you asked 20 minutes ago about the defensive tackles, and I've made a program-wide conversation.
It all comes back to JJ dropping that first pass.
That's it, man. He dropped his first one, and then third in Jeremiah. If he doesn't drop the first one, we don't get third in Jeremiah. Yes, we do, because he's Jeremiah Smith. I think that's all I got. This team is very good. I think Julian Sands is the best quarterback in college football.
Well, night games. That was weird.
Yeah, man. We got to get back. Listen, we're getting away from the routine here. Noon games, man. Noon
you know how weird it was going out to lunch today before the game?
I was so
weird
today.
I watched so much college football.
Like not having to stay up till 6 a.m. rewatching a bunch of games so I can vote in 8 people.
I will say we are, it is 1:19 a.m. and we're concluding this podcast. Like there is like a,
but there's a lot of things that I've already started formulating ideas versus starting to formulate those ideas right now. Okay. So here's the plan for this week coming up of pods. Stefan and I are going to rewatch the game on Peacock on mute. I'm not listening to them call Ryan Day, Jason Day.
They did what? Oh, I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, apparently it got bad. Stefan and I are probably going to, on the offensive segment on Monday, go through the red zone, see what went wrong, what could have been changed, and try to come to a conclusion of whether or not, because I asked Ryan Day after the game about something he said in the preseason about, listen, you're looking for trends, so you're not caught off guard. We're going to rewatch and look for things that say, hey, this is a problem versus like this is just something they dealt with in this football game, but we shouldn't be worried about it. Defense, we'll go through a couple of things. We'll talk about Julian Sand. And then this week, the pod schedule. Tuesday, we're going to do a texter survey, so it's going to be all 3 of us. And Stefan is finding out this information right now on this podcast. It's going to be all 3 of us. We're going to do a pod audit this week because I keep saying that the pods are too long, and then there are people saying they're not. There are people who are saying they are. So it's as you're listening to this Sunday afternoon, if you're listening to this as immediately as it come out, then we love you. Sunday afternoon, there's going to be a survey that goes out 614-350-3315, and its whole purpose is to you're going to help us do our jobs better so we can serve you to the best of our ability, both in the pod and through the text. So that'll be out, and that'll be the Tuesday pod as us going through that and essentially holding ourselves accountable. Listen, Ohio State uses its first bye week as improvement week. So does Buckeye Talk. It's improvement week. We'll take our break later on in the year. And then we'll do news pod for Wednesday per normal, big Thursday pod, and then we're done. We're not going to pod for Friday, Saturday, so you won't hear us again after those first reports and pods until Stefan and I come back for that Monday pod, and then we'll get back into it because in Ohio State, we'll be in full Big Ten play mode. So get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Ohio State, 37, Ohio, 9 to close out the non-conference schedule at 3-0 as the number 1 team in the country. For Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.